Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for our information session on the SWAN program. My name is Kimberly LeBlanc, and I am the academic chair for the Wound, Ostomy, and Continence Institute that is owned and operated by Nurses Specialized in Wound, Ostomy, and Continence Canada, and we run the SWAN program. So the SWAN program stands for the Skin Wellness Associate Nurse Program. And this evening, we're going to walk you through some of the bonuses of the program and how to apply if you're interested in doing so. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to introduce you to the panel that we have on with us. We have Vita Johnson, who's the program lead. We have Shelley Barnes, who plays a dual role. Shelley is academic advisor within the SWAN program, and she's part of membership services for the NSWOCC, and both Vita and Shelley are NSWOCs. Vita's working here in the Ontario area in Ottawa, and Shelley's out in BC. And we also have Anne-Marie Larocque, who I'm very proud to say is a SWAN graduate working here in Ottawa. And we're going to be joined shortly by our community of practice SWAN lead, Sharon Hunter, who's also a SWAN graduate. So at that, I'm going to turn this over to Vita, and I'll come back and talk to you again in a little bit. Vita, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay.
While Vita's just sharing the screen there, if anyone does have questions today, we are going to have a Q&A portion at the end. Best way to do that is by using the Q&A button in your Zoom toolbar. That'll give you an option to submit a question. We'll be able to see everything, and we'll absolutely be able to get to that at the end. Sorry, Vita, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
No, that is all right. And as Shelley knows, I'm terrible at looking at the chats while I'm talking. So if somebody sees a question for me, please let me know.
We'll keep an eye out, Vita.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vita Johnston, and I'm going to talk to you about our Skin Wellness Associate Nurse Program, which we lovingly call the SWAN program. It is a Canadian Nursing Association accredited wound, ostomy, and continence course for practical nurses, so registered practical nurses or licensed practical nurses, depending on where you are in Canada, and for diploma registered nurses. So as Kim had mentioned, I'm the lead academic advisor for the program, and I'm also a consulting nurse specialized in wound, ostomy, continence in long-term care in the Ottawa area. And so what is the SWAN program? Well, it is a self-directed online course. It takes about 5.5 months to complete it, and we have cohorts starting in January or in August. It is a competency-based course that has been created by nurses specialized in wound, ostomy, and continence for nurses. And the program is evidence-informed that allows you to really master knowledge to support your practice in all three of the tri-specialties, wound, ostomy, and continence. So what kind of things do we cover? So we start with continence, and we have 7 units that we talk about with continence, covering anatomy and physiology of the skin, the genital urinary system, the gastrointestinal system. We look at patient assessment for various types of incontinence and bladder and bowel dysfunction. And we look at how do we differentiate between the different types of incontinence, and how do we try to manage those types of fecal and urinary incontinence. For ostomy, we look at the psychosocial care of a person with ostomy. We look at what surgical interventions could result in an ostomy, and then look into assessing an ostomy and how to manage both the stoma, the peristomal skin care, and the patient education. We also look at product selection for ostomies, because we all know there's lots of different options out there. We want to make sure we're choosing the best thing for our patients. For wounds, we have 12 units, and we look at wound healing, both patient and wound assessment. We look at wound management, product selection, and then cover prevention, assessment, and management of moisture-associated skin damage, MARSI, skin tears, pressure injuries, lower leg ulcers, oncology-related ulcers, and surgical wounds. So there is quite a lot of content that you cover in 5.5 months. With our calendar, it is self-directed, but we try to give you an idea of what we're hoping you will cover each week. We give you the units that we would cover. We've got in the calendar when assignments are due. We've got Teams calls, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. But as you go through the course, the calendar is set out from the very beginning. So you're able to look at your work calendar, your life, what's going on with your life, and sort of manage when the studying is going to work best for you per week. And if you follow our schedule, you will complete the material in the time allotted. For our course, one of the big advantages I think our course has is that we have our CNA certified academic advisors. We have 5 academic advisors that work with our students. Myself, based in Ottawa, Susan Chandler, who's based in the Toronto area, Tracy Lillington, who's in Cape Breton, and then Sue Bolton and Shelley Barnes, who are out in BC. So we have hopefully good knowledge about different issues that are across the country, and we're available in the time zone that you're in to be able to help support your learning. 1 second, please. With the course components, one thing that we require for anybody who's going to be in the course is that they have a Nurse Specializing Wound Ostomy Continence Canada membership. And the reason for that is with that membership, you have access to a vast library and array of resources to you. We've got the Journal of Wound Ostomy and Continence Nursing, that you've got past and present issues available to you. We've got the NSWOC Advanced Journal available to you. And then we also have the CINO Library, which has most of the medical journals available from around the world. So it's a really great way to have access to valid resources, to best practice guidelines. And so you get that with your membership, and it's required for the course because a lot of our reading material comes from those resources. So what's in the course, or what do we have in the course? First and foremost, we've got a reading list. So for every unit, there is a reading list of required readings, and some have additional readings as well that are additional resources. Those required readings could be from the 2 textbooks that we use. Right now, we're using Wound Ostomy and Continence Nurse Society Core Curriculum Wound Management and Ostomy Management. Then we have other journal-based readings or best practice guidelines. Some you'll have to get from CINO, some will give you the URL, but for each unit, excuse me, you've got a list of readings that will give you the material needed for the course. Then for each unit, we also have a module, and in the module, we have slides that cover the material that each unit's competencies require you to know. Some have videos embedded in them, some have interactive learning components, but it covers all the competencies that are in the program. Then we also have workbooks. Now the workbooks are a learning aid, so you're not having to hand them in or anything, but in the workbooks, you have 1 workbook per unit, and it has the required readings that are associated with that unit. It has the competencies that are associated with that unit. It's got a little case vignette It's got learning objectives, which sort of highlight the major concepts that you should be learning and hopefully will help you ensure that you're covering the material that we're hoping you're covering. With the workbooks, you're using them on your own time. You are not handing them back or anything. Like I said, it's just a study guide. Then for each of continence, ostomy, and wound, we have an interactive online simulation that allows you to confirm the knowledge that you have gained and to make sure, yeah, I've got a good understanding of this. We have bi-weekly Teams calls. Actually, now we're doing about 3 every month. They last between an hour and an hour and a half. And in them, we talk about upcoming assignments. We talk about concepts that are being covered that week. We do a lot of case studies and try to make them as interactive as we can. So we're using polls and word clouds to get everybody to sort of get a chance to share their understanding. We have sort of clinical pearls that we provide in them, and it's a chance to interact with the academic advisors and interact with your peers as well. How do we assess your knowledge? Well, we've got a bunch of different ways to do it. And one thing that I really like about our program is we do have a fair number of assignments, but none of them are worth more than 10%. So with that, if it's been a while since you've been in school and you haven't really done assignments or anything like that, you can sort of do your best. And if there's a problem, it's not going to make or break the course for you. So it's not like some of my daughter's college courses or university courses where an assignment can be worth 50% of your mark. That doesn't happen. And we try to build on your knowledge with the assignments. So you'll see that some of our assignments will have let's say a pamphlet you're creating for continence. Well, then there's also a pamphlet for ostomy and a pamphlet for wound, and you're building on the skills that you learn to create a more in-depth product. We have quizzes, multiple choice quizzes that are to support your knowledge integration. The assignments, like you said, building communication skills and really focus on critical thinking. We do consult notes and case studies where we're trying to see that you're making connections between what you're observing or what you're learning about your patient to, okay, what does that mean? And how do I create a recommendation from that? The preceptor assignments are sort of, for those of you that have teenagers or have been in high school recently, they're like a summative assignment, where at the end of each section of continence, ostomy, and wound, you're doing a self-directed preceptor assignment. Now, you're either using your own patient, or we have case studies available for you if you don't happen to have a patient that would be appropriate. The big thing about these preceptor assignments is you're not having to take time off work or, as I did, go across the country to follow your preceptor. You're doing it at your own work environment. So there's no need to take time off. There's no need to worry about travel or anything like that. You're presenting a case and presenting your recommendations with it. And that's how those work. All right, the other thing, supports that we've got in place for the students is we have dedicated team sites. So there will be a team site for your cohort. And on that site, we have technical support guides like how to upload a Word document, or how to access CINAHL or WOCC, or how to use a catalog when you're ordering products. How do you choose what kind of product would be appropriate for your patient? We have all those resources on there. We also have a student cafe where students can get together. They can book times to chat with each other. The academic advisors are not monitoring that. So if you need to talk about your academic advisor, it is absolutely a safe place to do that. Excuse me. And then we have the SWAN community of practice, and Sharon's going to talk about that soon. But it's a place where you can talk to SWANs and SWAN students from across the country and talk about your work experience, how you are integrating yourself into your SWAN practice, into your work environment. You can share resources, things like that. So it's a great resource for you. So why do I think it's a good program? Well, the fact that it's convenient, self-directed online learning. You are not having to say, oh, every day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I have to be available for a class. It's you do the work at your own time. Even our Teams calls, we record all our Teams calls and post them on the course forum so that if you have to be working or the kids have something going on or you're going over to mom's for the evening, it's available there for you to review at a time that's convenient for you. The course is 100% competency directed content, and that's where the CNA looked at, and that's part of why we got our accreditation. The supporting staff that you've got for you, we're all NSWOCs. We all have practices that we're working with, and many of us have experience actually working with SWANs now, which has been absolutely fantastic. The content of the course, with it being a tri-specialty, is all evidence-informed content. So you are gaining knowledge in all 3 of the specialties, which is something that really has not been available for RPN, LPN, diploma RNs in Canada before this. There's interactive learning components, and in the course, we're really focusing on your critical thinking and how you're able to communicate the knowledge you've obtained. With the SWAN role, we really feel acting as a mentor for your peers, being able to express yourself, to explain why you're making suggestions is really important. You've got access to the JWOC Journal, NSWOC Advance, and the CINAHL Library. At the end, you have a nationally recognized SWAN designation, and we are seeing more and more employers are recognizing the value of having a SWAN on board, and are really trying to integrate the new SWAN role document that we've put in, gotten into place into their practice to in the work environment to really promote using the SWANs to better their patient care. SWAN community practice, and as I said, the SWAN role document. So, are you appropriate for the SWAN program, or is the SWAN program appropriate for you? First off, you've got to be passionate about enhancing your knowledge, and we see that with all our students, that they want to learn. They may be very familiar with wounds, and the ostomy and continent part may not be sort of something they've been exposed to a lot. And it's been really fun seeing how enthusiastic they get when they realize, wait a second, I'm making a difference with this continence thing that none of my coworkers have realized is such a big issue. So it's really been wonderful seeing that knowledge being put into practice. You want to be a wound, ostomy, and continence leader. You want to advance your patient care, help your peers, provide better care for your patients. You need to be either a registered practical nurse, a licensed practical nurse, or a diploma RN, and working in living in Canada. Those are the requirements we have for that. Now, to be in an online course and to be in our online course, you need to be able to dedicate minimum 20 hours a week to study. There is a lot of content in the course, and you have to treat it like a part-time job. This is not a course that you're going to be able to do if you're enrolled in college at the same time or university at the same time. It does take minimum 20 hours a week. Some weeks might be a little less, some weeks are going to be more. So you've got to have that time. You absolutely have to have a personal computer and internet at home. All right. This is not a course you're going to be able to do on your phone or do on a tablet. You do need to have that personal computer. And you need to be able to use Word documents, meaning you need to be able to open a document, edit a document, save a document, rename it, and upload it. You need to be able to use email. And ideally, you're going to be able to use Teams, although you can learn how to use that pretty quickly. You need to have organizational support for your studies. All right. Your manager, administrator needs to know you're taking this course. It's going to benefit them, so that they are hopefully able to support any time off requests or understand you're doing a part-time job going to school and that you need time to be able to do that. And your family, friends, and coworkers need to be supporting your studies as well. We're finding a lot of our students are caregivers. Something about being a nurse, we want to take care of everybody else. It takes a lot of work to be able to take care of everybody else, work, and do your studies. So you need your family or friends or coworkers to say, you know what, I can step up and help while you're doing this. Because otherwise you burn out. We see that, I think, across healthcare now. So you're putting a big commitment into taking the course. You need support too. All righty. And I think that is it for me. Are there any questions?
One thing, if I can just quickly mention, Vita, about the teams there, just to remind everybody as well that as a student, you're going to have access to the online version of all the Microsoft documents. So if as long as you know how to use Word, you're good to go. But we also will be able to provide the online version of those Microsoft softwares.
Thank you.
But I don't see any Q&As popped up yet, and nothing in the chat.
They don't have to pay for that. It's included into the program that you have access to the online version of the Office 365 or Web 360, whatever it is. And we can certainly show you how to access that online and how to use it.
Awesome. So I think next here is going to be a presentation from Shelley Barnes. So Shelley, I can pass over the mic to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Troy. And thanks, Vita, for covering all of the ins and outs of the SWAN program. Troy, do you have a slide deck up?
Sorry, hopefully you can see it there. We did actually just get one question that popped up here. Do you mind if I quickly ask that to both maybe to you and Vita as well?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Sure. So the question we had is from Catherine here, who's asking if the program is locked to just over 5 months there, or does it have to be, or can it be extended if something in their life happens? Maybe if you wanted to talk about if there's an opportunity to defer, let's say a few months in, something comes up and you absolutely cannot continue the course. Will you be able to talk about that for a quick second, or maybe Kim as well?
Yeah, Kim, do you want to talk this, or can I go ahead?
I'll start and you can jump in, Vita.
Wonderful.
So one of the things that we realize is that we are nurses, as Vita said, we are caregivers. But the other part of it is we also live in a very unique time where there's something called mandatory overtime. We are chronically working short as nurses. So we understand that. And we've built flexibility into the SWAN program so that if you need an extension on assignments, you can contact your academic advisors. We just ask that you contact them before the assignment is due so that they can plan and that they know. And they will give you the extensions that you need. If something happens and you have to put a pause on your course, then you can rejoin the next cohort and you don't have to start over. Say you complete continence, and then let's think of something happy. You get pregnant and you have a brand new baby and you're finding, oh, I can't do studies and take care of my baby at the same time. Well, then you can put a pause on the course and come back. We allow you up to 2 cycles, so you could defer twice. So you could defer to, say you're in cohort 9, you can defer up to cohort 11. So you have some flexibility in terms of coming back and taking up where you left off. So that's what, that's one of the flexibilities that we do offer in this program. And Vita and her team will do individualized learning plans when necessary. Anything you want to add there, Vita?
Just that we are here to support you. Hopefully Sharon and Anne-Marie agree that our goal is for you to successfully become a SWAN. And so as long as you're willing to share with us that, I need more time now, or something's come up, we work with you. We support if you've got questions about anything, if you need somebody to just sort of take a peek at an assignment, like, am I on the right track? We're there.
So there's another question that came in, Vita. Does the 20 hours per week include time spent for the course or for study only?
Both, but it is a full 20 hours. So some weeks, like when we're doing introduction to skin anatomy, there's 2 readings and the modules, I don't want to say how long the modules take, because some people will go through really quickly and some people, just their learning style, it takes them much longer.
Maybe what we can do, Vita, is when we get to, because we're going to have Anne-Marie and Sharon are going to say about their experiences. So we'll come back to that question after Anne-Marie and Sharon have kind of talked about their experiences. And they can talk to a bit of that. And when I look at the stats for the program, the evaluation students are saying that it's definitely minimum 15 and up. And the majority are saying they spend about 20 hours a week on the course. There's another question, and then we'll move on to Shelley. But the question is, do you have to be working as a nurse when taking this program? Yes and no. So we do ask that you are eligible for licensure in Canada and that you have a nursing license in Canada. So it is for Canadian nurses who are working. However, we have had nurses take the program who are off on leave, or a nurse whose spouse is in the military and they've moved from New Brunswick to Alberta and they're waiting for their they're looking for a job, or they're not ready to go back. So there is some flexibility there, but you do have to have a licensure in Canada to be able to take the program. So we'll pause right there with the questions, and we're going to go to Shelley, and then we'll come back to more questions after.
Perfect. So
keep the questions coming.
Absolutely. So Shelley's going to talk to us about how the SWAN role can benefit your workplace. And as Kim had mentioned before, Shelley's an academic advisor for the SWAN program and a clinical nurse educator in Victoria, BC. She's also a certified NSWOC, working in long-term care and island health and in a burn and wound clinic. So I'll pass this over to you, Shelley.
Thanks, Troy. I am a nurse specialized in wound, ostomy, and continence. I am an NSWOC and working in long-term care on Vancouver Island right now in British Columbia. And as you've heard, we're all really passionate about how the SWAN program can impact the people that we care for. So tonight, I'll just talk a little bit about how SWANs do impact wound, ostomy, and continence care in the workplace. Next slide. So SWANs influence outcomes at the bedside, at the unit level, and at the organizational level. So at the bedside, SWANs provide timely, equitable access to current and evidence-informed wound, ostomy, and continence care. So what does that look like? Well, as SWANs are diploma-prepared RNs and practical nurses who are prepared to holistically assess client needs, and then begin developing a treatment care plan that incorporates not only their client goals of care, but also the unit workload, the supplies that you have available. So, our SWANs they acquire this extended knowledge in the program beyond that of a generalist nurse, so that they can provide best practice care and apply a deeper knowledge and understanding of wound ostomy and continence care that goes beyond, maybe what they learned in their nursing program or that they have learned experientially. Many nurses already have some experience with day-to-day wound ostomy and continence care, but it can be difficult to showcase that. So after completing the SWAN program, our graduates can, they proudly display their nationally recognized SWAN designation to let their clients and their colleagues know that they have advanced knowledge in these areas of wound ostomy and continence. And it's an opportunity to reinforce that experiential knowledge that they came with evidence-informed best practice. And just talking about bedside care, I know of a recent example where one of our SWAN learners, a student, applied some of their new knowledge that they gained from the course, recognized, somebody that they were caring for was in chronic urinary retention. So they used their learning to assess, and then they made some recommendations, and we got a care plan in place. And, that client now has improved skin health. They've got improved quality of life, decreased risk of hospitalization, and decreased workload on the unit too. There's another, just recently heard of another SWAN student. Again, this is a student just completing their ostomy section, identified a resident with some skin breakdown at their ostomy site. And staff had been doing daily care, and this resident has painful, irritated skin. And this had been going on for years, as there just wasn't anybody on the unit that had that knowledge and best practice about ostomy care. Again, this is a student. So they did the assessment, they collaborated with an NSWOC and made some recommendations to improve that client's skin health. They decreased the nursing time that was needed to provide the care and decreased the cost of the supplies. So these are the kinds of immediate application of knowledge that SWANs experience right from the beginning of the course. And it's so exciting to see the people that we care for benefit from the care that SWANs provide. Next slide. So on the unit, SWAN graduates provide best practice and current wound ostomy and continence education and mentorship within their interprofessional team, so they can support others with their deeper knowledge and understanding of evidence-informed wound ostomy and continence care. SWANs also disseminate best practice and guidance to clients and their families, as well as to the team. So that might look like education, providing education for PSWs or HCAs to help prevent pressure injury, or supporting other nurses to choose appropriate wound care products, those kinds of things. SWANs also help lead interprofessional team building, and they collaborate closely with NSWOCs. It's part of the team that we create together. Next slide. At the organizational level, SWAN leaders influence cost-effective healthcare delivery and outcomes, as well as quality improvement initiatives. So again, with that deeper knowledge, SWANs are really well positioned to participate in projects that focus on financial outcomes too. Accountability, SWANs can, for example, help examine how the organization utilizes continence products to streamline workflow. Perhaps maximize the use of wound care products to decrease nursing visits and community health. So, these SWANs are leading teams in best practice in wound ostomy continence care that's financially responsible and accountable to our stakeholders. SWANs excel at wound prevention and resulting in cost savings and improved patient quality of life. And on a personal note, our SWANs here on the island are contributing to a quality improvement project that we're starting for pressure injuries. Our SWANs are participating as subject matter experts. Next slide. So having a SWAN on your team will help build best practice wound ostomy continence care that will benefit your clients, your colleagues, and the organization, but also our healthcare system. And don't we need that right about now? Again, the program's nationally recognized. It's CNA accredited. So it's, you know, it's more than just a wound course. This is, it's recognized, and you know, our SWANs graduate with this advanced understanding and knowledge of best practice in 3 areas, not just wounds, but wounds, ostomy, and continence. So anyhow, I've been sharing my perspective as an academic advisor, but Sharon and Anne-Marie are here. And you know, it's fun to hear from somebody who actually does the work. So let's give them a chance to speak, and hope you'll join our family.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelley. So what we'll do here is I just want to double check, Sharon, that you still got share screen ability. I will make sure you got it if you don't.
I have nothing to share. I'm gonna give everyone my candid thoughts. Just in terms of my experience of taking the SWAN program, I'm an RPN in Ontario. And I'm also the community of practice leader at NSWOC for the SWAN community of practice. So I'm going to touch on a little bit about the SWAN community of practice. So I
Sharon,
think,
don't want to, sorry to interrupt, but just wanted to clarify for everyone on the call. In the province of Ontario, licensed practical nurses are known as registered practical nurses. So a practical nurse, not a registered psychiatric nurse. So Sharon is a practical nurse. In Ontario, they're RPNs. And if any of you ever hear me speak about practical nurses, I'm always saying RPN because I work in Ontario and we know them as RPNs. Sorry, Sharon.
no, that's a good clarification to make. So I think one of the first things that I would really like to share is just my my experience as a student in the program. I have, at the time that I took the program, I was working in a full-time role. I was working as a nurse, but I wasn't actually doing direct patient care. And I think that's a piece just to highlight, because Vida has touched on the fact that you can pick your own patients to be able to go through and do your assessments, which is, I mean, your ideal, right? You want to be able to take what you're learning and be able to apply it to the patients that you're seeing. But in my situation, I didn't have patients that I was directly working with. So I was offered case studies through the program. And I think that's one of the points I want to make about the program, is that the program itself is adaptable for all of us and our learning needs, but also in our employment areas as well. So, I mean, if you're working in a sector where you think, well, I don't have a lot of ostomy patients that might come in, or that I might not have an opportunity to connect with that patient, I just want to clarify that that's never a barrier to being able to take this program and being able to learn in the program and to be able to have the full experience of the program and be able to learn all the course content. So I would agree that it takes about 15 to 20 hours of time. It's very flexible time though. And I mean, it is dependent. I really learned to be able to organize myself, to be able to get, you know, my study habits, I guess, into a calendar, because I had to have deadlines and I had to make deadlines for when I wanted to have like my assignment done, to be able to have someone proofread it, to be able to turn it in. So I started way back, like when I was in college, and, you know, gave myself deadlines to be able to get assignments done by, to be able to allow me to edit them and to be able to hand them in. Vida spoke as well to the recordings of the meetings, and I will let everyone know, if you're thinking about taking this program and you think, I haven't done an assignment since school, one of the things that I really felt supported on was that in having the Teams meeting, all of the assignments were reviewed beforehand. So you always knew what the marking expectations were for that assignment, not only with the rubric, but I mean with examples of what exactly the assignment was looking for. And then not only was that kind of given to you, and you could take notes then, but you can go back to these recordings and watch them. So if you forgot something, or even if you had written it down and you wanted to reference what exactly did they say in this part of the assignment they wanted or were looking for, you could draw on that and be able to make sure that your assignment really, met what they were looking for and matched the rubric. The course materials, I always speak to that. I am not necessarily a person with great focus and attention, so I really appreciated the fact that there were articles to read, but in the actual modules, there were links to be able to click on. There were videos that were interactive. There was just many different presentations of the materials, which, kept me engaged with the program and didn't make it seem sometimes like I was putting 15 to 20 hours into the program. I will also admit that at the time I was taking this program, I wasn't necessarily the most word savvy, person or nurse using a word program. And again, it can be intimidating, but I feel like the outline for these assignments was very clear in terms of what we needed to produce. And then we had access to Word online to be able to do that, which benefited me. And I really feel like the course is designed to support the student. And then after I graduated, I led myself all the way over to the community of practice. I guess I was kind of brought into the fold. In our community of practice for the SWANs, once you graduate, we're really looking at advocating for the role of the SWAN to be recognized, to be part of every healthcare team across the country, and being able to look at us that are diploma RNs, being able to look at us that are licensed practical nurses and registered practical nurses, and being able to design kind of support tools to advocate no matter what province we're in, and no matter what sector of healthcare that we're working in. Our current project on the community of practice is we're going to look at actually dividing, I guess, the SWANs into little working groups that look at more at sector specific issues and supports that are required. Our project that we worked on last year as a community of practice was a role description, which will be available to everyone. It's available on the website. And I think the reason why it is important is as you're considering taking the program and thinking about how you're going to talk to your employer about this and all the benefits that Shelley have just given you and all the supports that you might need from your workplace, listening to how Vita described the program, I'm also going to encourage you to take the role description with you when you approach your employer for support, because it can give them, it's a document that they can go over that so they can understand what, when you graduate, what are some of the things that you could do in your role as a SWAN to be able to enhance your workplace and support your peers and colleagues. And I think having that support going in is really important. And then it helps us grow in terms of advocating for SWANs in our workplaces and to really support what we do. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope to see you all in the program, and then I hope to see you all later on in the community of practice. You can actually join the community of practice as a student. As soon as you start in the program, it's also a good source of peer support to be able to reach out to us who are SWANs and be able to discuss, cases or to be able to expand knowledge. So we're always here to mentor each other. I think that's the important part, right? When we're on this journey together in a role that's pretty new to the whole country, is being able to find like-minded people that are passionate about wound ostomy continence. And we definitely have that here at NSWOC, and you have that here in the SWAN community of practice.
Okay, so now we're going to hand this over to Anne-Marie. So Anne-Marie Larock, I'll get you to present yourself a little bit, but I've known Anne-Marie longer than I care to admit because it'll say how old we both are when we say how many years we've known each other. But I have to say that, like Sharon, Anne Marie has become a huge asset to wound care in our region, and for me personally, because like Vida, I'm a consultant in long-term care. It has been such a wonderful working opportunity. So Anne Marie, I'm going to hand this over to you.
How much time do I have? Because I will go on and on and on for hours about this amazing new role that I finally
We'll pull
finally
you off,
bit the bullet.
pull you off the stage. Don't you worry.
So just to start, thank you for letting me be part of this, because I feel it's quite important that us dinosaur nurses, diploma RNs, have the opportunity to also get something that's accredited. I've been passionate about wound care for 23 plus years, and I've been getting poked and poked and poked for many years ago, and I won't say who poked me. All that depends on who you all see below me, but so I finally poked back and I said, well, it's my kid's turn to do post-secondary. I've been an RN for 32 years now, so this was a few years back. So I said, then develop something I can take that will give me the accreditation close to being an NSWOC, as that at the time was not attainable for me. So I did also, in the meantime, while I was waiting and waiting and waiting and poking, I did go back to get my IIWC, the International Interprofessional Wound Care course from the University of Toronto. That was also quite intense. It was almost a 1-year program. Learned a lot, but I wanted more. So then I took an advanced ostomy management course through Mount Sinai in Toronto. That was amazing, but yet I wanted more. I wanted some other letters I could put behind my name that finally would tell others and just support what I knew, and more learning that I wanted to do, and be a better a mentor, leader, role model, and support for my fellow colleagues. So, and the SWAN program came to be, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting all excited. So finally last year, I got another poke from Kim saying, look, let's go. So had the opportunity. I work in long-term care, and actually one of the homes at Vida is my NSWOC. So that worked out very well, and I've known Vida for a few years, And so I, again, along with what Sharon had mentioned about the extra support, it's just, I really can't brag about it enough. Always there, questions answered if you need a minute, because I know that was a question that was posed, and I had 2 occurrences while I was taking a course where I needed a bit of time to sit back and get some things done, because life happened and I couldn't put it on hold. So it worked very well. So the course was doable. Difficult, yes. I'm not a textbook learner. I am a hands-on learner. So that I found a little more challenging. However, the assignments were fun. I really got excited about doing them, and I would sit all Saturday morning with my computer, and grandson's trying to get my attention. He's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm working. Can I help? Oh, sure. So he's poking at things, but anyway, it was a lot of fun. Again, the support and from all of the advisors. So if Vida wasn't available, I sent an email, someone else, I think it was Shelley, who answered rather quickly. And I'm like, God bless you. You must live on a computer. She was great. Kim, amazing. The team, awesome. And then again, when I finished, I jumped on board, followed Sharon, because I'm like, she's interesting. She's talking some really cool stuff I want to be part of. So I joined the community of practice as well. And I too want to make a difference and support fellow nurses that are passionate about wound care and know that we can make a difference out there and help, support. And healthcare right now needs help and support. So I'm trying to do my part.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anne Marie. And one
Can
of the
I
things I would
jump
like,
in?
yeah.
So I have the amazing privilege of being part of a SWAN NSWOC team with Anne Marie. And I am thrilled with how Anne Marie can deal with the issues that she's seeing in her long-term care home, but she can call me up and say, yeah, I think I need more help with this, or can I confirm, have I thought of everything, but we're working as a team together. And that SWAN and SWOC collaboration, I think, is absolutely key for best practice for our patients. But knowing I've got Anne-Marie in my home and knowing that she is going to do the assessment, she's going to get stuff in place, she's going to do the reassessment and say, yeah, you know, this is not reacting the way I want it to. I need Vita. But some of my other homes where I don't have SWANs, I might be getting called for things that they don't necessarily need me for, but they don't realize they don't need me for. Anne-Marie's got that knowledge, and she's got that integration of the knowledge so that we're getting the best care for our patients in a timely fashion, in a quick fashion, rather than wait for me to get in there. So it's lovely working with you.
Thank you, ditto. And the other nice perk, I think, with being a diploma RN, I don't need to make suggestions to the docs. I can actually establish what the care plan and write the orders as to what we're going to do. And that has saved a lot of time as well, because I know that Vita is extremely busy, and for her to try and pull herself away to then come in, write orders, do this, do that, it has saved a lot of time. And I've made a few wonderful differences where I work, and the staff are very grateful that I'm there. And we're in the midst of doing a lot of education with our PSWs and with our registered staff, and implementing moisturizer twice a day. Anyway, just thought someone would really get excited about that. So lots of things coming that are a necessary change, but definitely that whole team is just, yeah, it's wonderful.
I think it's something that's important to point out is that we're all nurses, but we all have different scopes. And what our scope is going to be dependent on what province or territory we live and work in, what sector of healthcare we live and work in. So Anne-Marie was alluding to the fact that in Ontario, RNs outside of the acute care center can make nursing diagnoses and write nursing orders. Right now in Ontario, our practical nurse colleagues are a little bit handcuffed, but come January, that's going to change. And our nurse colleagues in Ontario will be able, practical nurses will be able to make nursing diagnoses and write nursing orders as well, if they have the proven knowledge, skill, and judgment to do so. So what's really great is we know we have teams of SWANs like Anne-Marie and Sharon, and right now today, Sharon has to go to an RN to say, will you do this? But here's my recommendations. And if the RN is smart, she'll follow them and listen to them. But as soon as the new legislation comes, Sharon will be able to direct care, which is going to be such a great advocacy for patients. It's going to really change things, because what I'm seeing in my long-term care homes is the homes that I have SWANs in, my consults as an NSWOC have gone way down, which is a good thing. It's a great thing. And when I'm called, it's really for unstable, complex patients. It's not for stable, non-complex patients. And we are finding today, I just spent a day doing a prevalence study in one of my homes that has a SWAN. And we are delighted to see that our prevalence in all wound categories is just, every time we do it, it's down and down and down. So what we're seeing is, and we're linking this to when our SWAN started. So we know that having a SWAN on board has decreased our burden of wounds, and we're tracking that with costs as well. And we know that our costs are going down. And the only thing that's changed is we have a SWAN in the home. So to me, it's a really positive thing. Before I go into explaining how to apply to the program, there is a question that came in, and this is a question we get asked a lot. So I've taken the SWAN program. If I decide to go in and become an RN, can I then, so if I bridge to my degree, can I then get credits towards the NSWOC program? Sadly, the answer is no. And part of it is that while parts of it will be a repeat, guaranteed, it's the same body of knowledge to a degree, but the NSWOC program is at the master's level. So while we may have, a course on the anatomy and physiology of the skin, we have woven master's level components into it. And come January, the NSWOC program is worth the first third of a master's. So this is one of the reasons that we don't give recognition of prior learning for it. Now, that being said, if you take the IWCC course like Anne-Marie did, she got out of taking a bunch of assignments in the wound care course. That program is actually at the master's level. So that course gets counted towards the wound course in the NSWOC course. But, and here's the big but, there is no clinical component to the IWCC course. So they have to do their clinical preceptorship. So there's a lot of little things that we do get into, but certainly there are opportunities depending on what courses you take for recognition of prior learning. We have had a number of nurses now who've taken the SWAN program come back and said, you know what, I now feel like I can become a BN. And they bridged to be the BN. And now two of them have completed the NSWOC course. So they've come back and then become NSWOCs. And one of them said to me the other day, I never thought, this is a young gentleman who's currently in the bridging program. And he said to me, I never thought I was smart enough to do a university degree. He goes, but Vita and the team convinced me throughout the SWAN program that I could do this. And I'm so happy he got his first semester marks back and he's kicking butt, Vita. He's kicking butt. I'm so happy. Straight A student. So I think that, it's a testament as well that, it's not, he's a really bright guy, but he attests a lot of it to the confidence he now felt he had from the SWAN program.
I have spoken to one SWAN who is almost done the NSWOC program, and she has talked with her fellow NSWOC students, and she felt that the SWAN program gave her such a strong foundation that the NSWOC program she found was easier than some of her NSWOC student cohort, because stuff made sense. She had seen sort of the foundation, the basics, and was able to build off of that rather than starting from scratch. So we've seen that with 2 students now.
Another question that's come in is the content and knowledge of the wound management and ostomy management similar to the SWAN program? So I'm assuming you're talking about our foundational courses. No, it is not. Our foundational courses just scratch the surface. They're 6 weeks, self-paced online. They're there to wet your whistle. They're there to introduce you to wound management and ostomy management, to start understanding the product selection piece, but they're also there to help teach you to know what you don't know. And it's scratching the surface of what we teach in the SWAN program. And Anne-Marie and I recently basically did a one-day abridged version of that foundational course to a group of nurses in the Ottawa region. And it was amazing the kind of things people came back with. They're like, oh, I didn't even know I didn't know that. And Anne-Marie afterwards went, wow, we really learned a lot in the NSWOC or in the SWAN course compared to the foundational course. The foundational course, though, is great, especially for nurses who didn't get anything in their undergrads. And they want to decide, do I want to go into wound healing or ostomy or continence care? We offer a foundational continence course as well. And it's a great introductory, but if you took that course and you found it hard, the SWAN course is a lot harder than that one. So the next question that's come in is, I'm in Alberta. I brought this to my management team, my CNA, and they had not heard of the program. The NSWOC team that I work with are very supportive, but I'm not sure how this is recognized in the province. So great question. We just held a summit out in Alberta where we introduced the SWAN program. And we do have quite a few graduates now from Alberta. We have many applications this time around. It is slowly making its way across the country. We're really trying to make sure that everybody knows about it. We're talking to the provincial associations, and we're here to support you because we see the success that's happened in Ontario and in British Columbia, and we know what a difference it can make. So one of the things that we're willing to speak with managers if we want, you know, Sharon and her team at then Anne-Marie and the group in the community of practice have developed basically a toolkit on what the SWAN role is that you can take to your employer to help show them what the value add is and what you can do. And, you know, we're willing to be here to support you as much as we can. As I said, we are starting to get SWANs in Alberta, and our annual conference next year will be in Calgary in May, and we'll have a SWAN stream at the conference, and we're very excited. So we're really hopeful that this is going to help to support nurses that want to take this program. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Shelley, can you maybe talk to how, because you were really influential in BC in getting them to recognize the value of the SWANs. You maybe talk a bit of how you did that?
I can, yes. I like to talk about NSWOC and the value added there for sure. I also had a very supportive management team, and I think you know, we started talking about SWANs and the SWAN NSWOC team right at the right time. It was just as, you know, COVID was happening, and you know, just like we have now, our healthcare really needs the extra support. We need people who can come in and you know, offload all of those referrals to physicians and to, you know, sometimes with the NSWOCs, be the boots on the ground to help change practice, to bring best practice, evidence informed practice. And when I started talking with my team about it, they were super excited. Again, they'd never heard of SWAN. Some hadn't even heard of NSWOC. So we did a lot of education, but once we got a few people going, and those examples that I gave, they happened in our long-term care sites. And when management starts to hear that people are making a difference, they perk up and say, oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, and what are they? They're doing a SWAN program, are they? Yeah. So as Kim said, if you think it would be helpful for someone to speak with your management team, we're happy to do that. Sharon and the community of practice have created the SWAN role description. That's a really great one to share. We also have our competencies that you could take to your management team and say, you know, hey, if I do the SWAN program, here's what I'm able to do. This is what we learned to do. And I think all of that is very helpful.
Thanks,
One
Shelley.
thing we need to remember is prior to January of 2020.
I'm just going to add to that, Shelley. I think.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I was just going to add to that. The community of practice did look at one of the documents we've been working on in this probably past 6 months is looking at proposal writing, being able to draft a letter. So I think the community of practice's focus is, as I say, on that advocacy piece, and trying to help us create tools to be able to approach your managers. And again, in that community of practice, we've seen little project initiatives from some of the SWAN nurses. For example, there was a SWAN leader in Ontario. She worked in home care with patients and really highlighted an example how she was making care plans for the patients. And she used a similar style to some of the things you learn in the SWAN program to demonstrate the knowledge, but she made them as well. They were patient facing, so they involved, you know, using pictures and basically written instruction for the patient in terms of their care plan to help them engage the patient. And so it's the community of practice can help kind of give ideas and generate ideas like that to be able to give a little bit of a value proposition to your employer, to give you ideas of ways to support your colleagues, to support your patients, that in the end are forms of evidence to be able to show where we're working, the sectors that we're working in, the difference that having a SWAN on the team can make.
Yeah, exactly. So there's two
Yeah.
other questions that have come in. One of which is we have a nurse who's graduated from the SWAN program and said they didn't write the exam, so not sure if they could be certified. So there's something you need to be very clear about. Right now in Canada, the only way to become certified is through the Canadian Nursing Association. For full disclosure, I am the president-elect of the CNA. And at this point, while some of the certification exams are open to practical nurses, the wound, ostomy, and continence is not yet. And let me put that yet. We have the exams to create them are very, very expensive. So we have to show that we've graduated enough numbers to have enough writers to justify developing the exam. So we have a goal. We know we're working towards it. We're halfway there. And as soon as we get that goal, I have a business case all ready to go that we're going to be going after CNA certification. I'll probably be in my presidency when that happens, so there may be a little bit of conflict there, but we'll live with it. We're going to push it forward. But my goal is within the next 4 years is for us to have certification for SWANs from the CNA. So we're working towards that now. So when you graduate from the SWAN program, you can use the credential SWAN. So for instance, Sharon would write her name, Sharon Hunter, RPN, SWAN for SWAN, much like you would see me have NSWOC after my name. She just can't have the certification part. That being said, we are working towards it. And when we do get certification, anybody who's completed the program will be eligible to write the certification exam. And we will, before everybody panics and goes, exam, for the NSWOCs, we have an exam prep course that people take. We don't charge for that as long as you're an NSWOC member. And we will develop a prep course and we'll get study groups. And don't worry, Anne-Marie, I will walk you down off the ledge. You'll be just fine. I have a whole course I give on how to take multiple choice questions. So we will, we're here to get everybody through it. So hold the line. So just know that when you graduate, you can't say you're a certified wound, ostomy, and continence nurse, but you can say that I'm a SWAN, that I graduated from a CNA accredited program. The other thing I am doing as well is I'm in the process of going after the World Council of Interstomal Therapists, which is the mothership for wound, ostomy, and continence nursing at a global level. I am going after them for accreditation for the SWAN program. So our NSWOC program is accredited by the WCET. I'm going after accreditation for the SWAN program so that it can be recognized globally. So right now, Vita, Shelley, and I can travel anywhere in the world and we can get a job as a nurse specialized in wound, ostomy, and continence. So we can go to the United States and write their certification exam and work as an advanced practice nurses down there, because we graduated from a WCET accredited program. So we're going after that for the SWANs too. So just know I'm here advocating behind the scenes for our nurse colleagues that can't get certification yet. I'm out here advocating for it to make it happen. Other question that we have is I'm currently a nursing student for RN. When I graduate, am I able to take the NSWOC course? And I know that this nurse is a SWAN already. So yes, when you get your BN, you can definitely take the NSWOC course, and we will be here to support you through that with open arms, and we can even link you to some nurses who have done that. There is their annual competency as well. So we have our core competencies and standards of practice that the program is based on. And one of the great things that Shelley and Troy and Kathy Harley and the rest of the team at NSWOC are great at is that they have webinars that are free for members that go on year round. Every week, Troy's got 2 or 3 webinars going on various topics that you can take. And that's one way of maintaining competencies, and you get continuing learning credits for it, which is very important for maintaining our licensure. And for when we do get certification, I'm not saying if, when we get certification for SWANs, Those will count towards the hours that you need to get and maintain your certification. The other thing is we have our annual conference that moves around the country. So depending on where you live, we go east to west, we kind of go west, middle, east. So you should be, at some point is going to be close to your home, and you can attend conference. And our graduation is held live at conference as well. This year, Anne Marie's husband was our bagpiper. It was great. So we also have the conference where you can maintain your competency as well. So we try to offer lots of opportunities for you to learn new skills. And at conference, we have workshops as well that you can attend. So we have once you're a SWAN, you can take our advanced wound care debridement course, and then you can take the hands-on component at conference. And we've got ostomy stuff, and I just learned a whole new thing about using pig's intestines for ostomy, or an ostomy workshop. So ladies, we're going to have fun at the next conference. I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and I'm going to walk you through how to apply for the program. And while I'm doing that, you can think of more questions, and the team can think about, do you have anything else that you want to say? So are we seeing my screen okay there, Troy?
Looks good.
So if you come to the WOCinstitute.ca website, you'll see this, our website, and you'll see the different things scrolling through, and you can either wait for it to scroll through, or you can click forward and click on the Learn More in the SWAN program. When you come in, you can scroll down, and there's different information here on the SWAN program, but most people want to know about is the application. So here we have the outline, our outcomes, dates and deadlines, some testimonials. But if we look at the application, there's the application process, the checklist, eligibility, tuition and cost, and textbooks. To be eligible, as they said, you need to be a practical nurse or diploma RN who are practicing in Canada. Okay, if we look at the application checklist, we can see that we ask for your current resume. And you can Google how to do a resume if you don't know how to do one. It's on my to-do list, Troy. Your job is to remind me to do this. I want to put up a sample resume for people so you can see. It can just be a one-pager. We want a statement on why you want to become a SWAN. So maximum of 500 words. Just put it down why you want to become a SWAN. The reason that we look for the current resume and for the statement is we're starting to get to a point where we're getting more applicants than we actually have spots. So some people will be waitlisted, and we have a little rubric that we use, and we have blinded individuals who come in and will rank people, just in case we are in a situation like when you applied for your nursing programs, where you have to apply, and maybe some of you didn't get your first choice of places where you went to do your nursing, or maybe you were waitlisted. These kind of things happen. So this is one of the reasons that we do that. The proof of criminal screening, we don't need that. That actually, Troy, we have to remove.
I'm proving it as we speak. Sorry about that.
That's for the NSWOC program. Proof of a valid nursing licensure for Canada, and 2 references. To get the references, it's a little online check form that your references could do, and the link is right here that you can send your references. You can cut and paste that and send them to the people that you've asked to be your reference, and they will fill that in for you. So next question people will often have as well is the costs and tuition. So if you come down, you can see that it is not a cheap program to take. It is roughly $3,200 to take the program. Depending on what province you live in, there are different educational opportunities. So for instance, if you are from Alberta, BC, or Ontario, they have nursing education funds. So in Ontario, we have WeRPN that you can apply for funding for, and they have a lot of great educational initiatives. We are also working with the Canadian Nursing Foundation to establish some scholarships as well for both our NSWOC and our SWAN programs, so that nurses can apply for funding that way. I'm speaking with them to try and negotiate that. And we do have a number of scholarships as well, but those are given out at graduation. And so they are achievement based. So it will be, you know, students who've had excelled academically. So there are opportunities for scholarships that way. So, you know, these are listed here as some of the places that you can go to look for funding, have potential funding. If we're looking at the actual application process, we've done a step-by-step here for you. So step one, how to register, and you make sure that you pick the SWANs, the SWAN, here it says WCP student associate, but it will actually be the SWAN student associate. Then step two, it shows you how you come into the members only section to register for the program. It shows you which one to pick. We are currently right now accepting registrations for cohort 9, which starts in January. The next cohort will be cohort 10 that starts in September. And then you have your application fee. And then once you've done that, once you've registered for the program, then you will get, you'll see your course prerequisites, and you can click on them, and then you'll have the opportunity to upload your documents. Most provinces in Ontario have stopped giving nursing licensures like a paper copy. So most of the province now, you actually have to go online. And there is no way to print copies. What I normally tell people to do is each of the provinces as well, all the colleges have Find a Nurse or some version thereof. So Ontario, you can go to the College of Nurses of Ontario, go on Find a Nurse, you can pull up your registration, take a screenshot of it or a picture with your phone, or print it off and scan it in, and you can use that. It takes you very quickly once you've completed all your prerequisites. So over the next couple of weeks, for people who've applied, the deadline to apply is November 30th. So I'm starting to go through all the completed applications now. And around December 5th or 6th, I'll have gone through everybody who's applied before November 30th, and we'll be sending out all of our acceptance letters for the start date of mid-January. Okay, so you have your checklist here, and as I say, we're getting rid of this criminal screening. Will go, if I were to refresh my screen, it would be gone. What else do I want? For the textbooks, there are the two textbooks that you will need. Continence reading come from either the Institute will supply for you, or you'll get it through the online library that Vita talked about. Should you have any questions, issues, or problems, my email is right here, chair@wocinstitute.ca. If I don't know the answer, I know that Troy will or Vita will. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see, have we had any more questions or anything come in? Does anybody have any questions? We'll give people a minute while people are thinking. Anybody have anything you want to add?
No.
Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
If anyone taking the SWAN program and you have questions, please, I am available as a resource as well. If you would like to pick my brain, feel free. Happy to even chat with you if you're kind of on the fence and you're not sure if you want to take the plunge or the investment. I tell you, you will not be disappointed. An amazing program. It is well worth every penny. The resources and the support is incredible. So if you're really not sure and you do want to chat with me about it, feel free. Just trying to figure out the best way people to do that.
You want to put your email address in the chat for everyone?
I will do that. And please do reach out if you're not comfortable doing it in front of all here. but I'm happy to be a support.
Another great, if you want to get a hold of anybody, when nice thing about our institute email addresses is that the first initial of our first name and our last name, all lowercase, at WOCinstitute.ca. So it'd be V Johnson at WOC Institute, S Barnes, S Hunter, A LaRock. And once you become part of the NSWOC family and you're part of the WOC Institute, you have your institute email address for life. It is yours. It's not like some of the colleges and universities that the ink isn't even dry in your diploma and they take away your library access, they take away your email address. No, we give you your email address for life, and as long as you're an NSWOC member, you have the library access. And, you know, some people say, oh, what do I need library access for? Well, once you become a SWAN and you're one of the nurse leaders in your workplace, and all of a sudden you are tasked with giving the education sessions and leading your team, you're going to want to stay up to date, and you're going to start, well, I need to look up an article on something. And you're going to be so happy to have library access, because if you work in the community or long-term care, they don't give us library access. If you're in acute care, normally you have a library access. You have library access, but those of us people working in a community and in long-term care, no, at least not to my knowledge. Sharon, do you have library access in the community? No. Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, you would think that our colleges and like our provincial associations would give us library access, but nobody's jumped on that. But we're very grateful that the NSWOCC has given us library access. I couldn't live without it.
I think just speaking to how this fits in with being a SWAN as well. I mean, again, in leadership and being in your role, having access to a source of evidence where you can draw on the evidence. I mean, in the course, you learn how to reference that. In most of our workplaces, we're not going to have to reference that. But when you're speaking to something with a colleague, and then you're able to pull an article and print it, you know, regarding, you know, skincare related to ostomy appliances, you can actually print that article and share that. And I mean, there's lots of great resources at NSWOC that you'll learn about, like the Journal Club. But you know, having an access to those, as I say, really empowers you to be able to share that knowledge and to be able to, you know, have the evidence to back that up. Because I mean, we do hear a lot of things, especially in the world of wound care, right, with products and processes changing, and you always have the most current evidence that you can reference.
An example of that is that, and Anne-Marie alluded to this in terms of the twice daily moisturizing. So there's a couple of great studies that were done that really highlight that by moisturizing aging individuals' skin twice a day, you can decrease your incidence of skin tears by 50%. So a SWAN in one of my homes wanted to implement that. And they said, well, can you come and talk to management? And I said, well, no, why don't you go and present it to management to get the extra moisturizer? And they said, well, we can't afford the really expensive moisturizers. And I said, well, go to the literature, see what the literature says. And so she went, she found the articles, and she came back and she said, they say it doesn't matter what moisturizer you use, that you just have to have a moisturizer with no perfumes in it and doing it twice a day. So I could use a government stock moisturizer. It won't cost the home any extra money. It's just now going to be a matter of making sure that we have adequate staff. So she went in and she was so proud. She presented this to her management, and she changed the culture in her long-term care home. And I was there to back her up and support her. But for me, it was so great that she was able to do this on her own. And that she, you know, it was the confidence that she came with it. And by doing that, she also helped establish herself as the in-house expert on wound ostomy and continence nursing. So she was able to establish herself in that nurse leadership role. We are now at 8:24, so we're just or in Ontario, we're at 8:24. So we're just about at the end. So we'll just see if there's any other, not seeing any other questions coming into the chat or to the question and answer. Closing remarks. Sharon, I'll start with you. Any closing remarks?
I think please do reach out if you're considering taking the SWAN program. And I did see a question earlier just in the webinar chat asking about if there's a SWAN in the Guelph region. If you reach out to the community of practice, we will do our best to be able to find SWAN or NSWOC near you so that you can be able to discuss that, as I say, and connect sector to sector. We're a growing community. We're all the way to cohort 9. We're just expanding in numbers as the years go by. So please don't hesitate to reach out and ask us all kinds of questions. That's what the community of practice is here for. And thank you for attending tonight.
One quick thing, I did see that someone in the chat was asking if there was anybody in the Guelph area who was a SWAN. I don't know that off the top of my head, but if you email us, we'll do our best to find someone for you. Anne-Marie, any closing remarks? Troy, I'm going to get to you. Anne-Marie, any closing remarks?
Just thank you for letting me be part of this to hopefully encourage some other diploma RNs like myself to dive in, take the course, continue your passion for wound care. Don't let it stop you. Keep going and make a difference out there.
Like you had a choice not to take the course.
Well, I didn't really want to put that out there, but one little thing that I keep telling people that I have been an ugly duckling for 32 years and I finally became a SWAN.
Shelley, any closing remarks?
No, just thanks to everyone on the panel that joined and those of you who are joining us to watch. I'm also just always happy to have time with everybody that's on the panel. We are a really big family, and it really does feel like a family. It's nice to see everybody again and just say hi. And you'll like that about the SWAN program and our NSWOC team. We really are a big family, and we get together like this and chat actually quite a bit. I will note that there is another question, and maybe Vita could answer. Are there many SWANs in Nova Scotia?
I believe there's 4, and I believe we've got
There's 5 who've applied to the program.
5, okay, and then I think we've got one or 2 currently in the program right now.
And then there's 4 graduates.
Yeah, and I think we've got another group coming in for cohort 9.
There's 5 coming into cohort 9 so far.
Yeah.
A couple in the program now and 4 who've already graduated.
Yeah. And I know somebody had asked earlier about it being recognized in Alberta and stuff. I'd really like people to realize that prior to January of 2020, SWAN never existed. We're on cohort 8. We're doing 2 cohorts a year. And for me, I am thrilled and amazed at how we are expanding year by year and cohort by cohort, and that we're getting governments and employers supporting their nurses to take the program because they're realizing there's benefit for them. As the program lead, if you are passionate about wound care, ostomy and continence, if you're interested in learning, we really would like to have you in the course, and we are here to support you. That we get really invested in our students. It's kind of scary, but we want you to succeed, and we hope we've created a program that supports different types of learners, and will create a program that you'll really enjoy.
Troy, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, and I just wanted to echo what or expand on what Shelley was mentioning about it being a family. Remember that as a student, you have your family of SWAN students as well, and of course your extended SWAN academic advisor family and your full SWANs as well. But when you join the Professional Association of Nurses Specialized in Wound, Ostomy, and Continence Canada, you are joining a family of over 1,000 healthcare professionals in different capacities across Canada and even internationally too. Of course, those come with quite a few different membership benefits, but we have things like Facebook groups and discussion groups. We meet at conference, we talk a lot, we learn from each other, but we are putting the profession forward quite a bit just by virtue of being a member. So you are, as a student, you're also a associate registration type with our larger association. And that's not something that you need to stop doing after the program ends. This is something that people are staying with the organization for years and years and years after that. So we hope that when you do consider joining and becoming a SWAN, you're thinking about this even longer term. You're joining a massive family of 1,000 and growing nurses, healthcare professionals, physicians, all the way across Canada and beyond. So think about even broader than that as well.
And I think another important thing, especially for our practical nurse colleagues on this call, is that Sharon sits on our board as well as from the lead for the community of practice. So we have a SWAN sitting on our board, having a voice on our board. And that's something that is unique to most associations. I have to say, if I put my CNA hat on for a minute, one of my biggest issues that I'm dealing with across the country right now is too many groups are trying to have a divide between practical nurses and registered nurses. And we can't have that. We are all nurses. We're here to support each other. We all bring a different thing to healthcare, and there's a lot of overlap between our roles. And we need to support each other and work together because we are all nurses, and Lord knows now the governments all hate us. So we need to band together and work together and support one another. And NSWOC is fully committed to that. And, and as part of that, it was making sure that we had our SWANs had a voice on our board. So know that you are joining a family, and that not as second class citizens, but actually as active members who are participating. And we don't see it as SWANs working under an NSWOC. We see it as SWANs working in collaboration with an NSWOC. We are a team, and Anne-Marie and Vita are a prime example of a team that works together. And it's no different than an NSWOC or an RN or an RPN, LPN working with a nurse practitioner or a physician. We all work together as a collaborative team. So it's something that's I think very important for all of us to remember, that we are a collaborative team. So with that, we are at time. I thank everybody for joining tonight. If you have any questions, please reach out to any of us, and we hope to see you in a SWAN program soon. Good night, everyone, and thank you to the panel for joining us this evening. And thank you, Troy, for keeping us all in line and organizing it. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.